The topic that we had discussed is international trade finance. Trade finance can be defined as the financial tools and goods that business employ to promote international trade and commerce. Also, trade finance assists in reducing the risk pertaining to global trade by reconciling the dividend needs of an exporter and importer. The goal of trade finance is to remove supply and payment risk from deals by bringing in a third party. While the importer may be given credit to complete a trade order, trade finance gives the exporter with receivables or payment in accordance with the arrangement. Contrary to traditional finance or credit issuance, trade financing is unique. Furthermore, by balancing the contrasting requirement of an exporter and importer, trade finance can assist lower the risk involved with international trade to prevent the possibility that the importer accepts the shipment but declines to pay for the products. An exporter would prefer the importer pay upfront for an export shipment.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Arani binti Ramli. My matric number is 1190797. So I'm going to present the article 1. International trade and letters of credits, a double-edged sword in times of crisis. The objective of the article is to study the ability to mitigate risk associated with international trade, especially during tight situations. Letters of credits have the ability to minimize the risk. So the issues in this article is the causes of crisis related to drops of international trades, the growing literature on financing terms in international trade transactions, and then the differences between the effects of the COVID crisis and the global financial crisis. The third one is the research methodology that used in the article is qualitative methodology that use data from the previous studies. Background of the study is the community that require letter of credits, guarantees and protection will experience a greater decline in exports. So the engagement in trading activities during COVID-19 is very low. There are 4 ways in structuring financing international trades. First, by open account, cash in advance, letter of credits and documentary collections. The findings in the article is the exports that covered product through a letter of credit is more volatile, that the product delivery incidence on letter of credits international trade is related to the product's characteristics such as size of shipping, times and others. The product level resilience on letter of credits international trade is related to the product characteristic. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. I want to talk about Article 2, Problems of Trade Financing Development in the Russian Federation's objective. In this study, we have analyzed the status of trade and export operations and made substantial proposals for increasing their volume in the RF current economic sections. As it is commonly known, the volume of trade and export operations always influence the GDP indicator. To increase the volume of trade and export operations and accordingly GDP, it is necessary and to increase the volume of international trade with Asian countries. Issues. Some of trade financing issues already existed before the time when the present economic restrictions were put in place. The state of banking industry has an impact on trade finance system in addition to regulation. The current crisis has had an impact on both the volume and the structure of international trade. It is accompanied by a sharp and persistent reduction in global energy prices and involve a brand new factor sections. The 1998 crisis took place against a rather difficult economic situation in the country overall and was triggered by a fall in commodity price and the financial crisis in Southeast Asia. The crisis of 2008 in Russia began as a part of the global crisis and affected almost all sectors of the national economy. Foreign trade felt the impact of this world crisis in late 2008 already, and this impact was dramatic since the dynamics of foreign trade turnover declining during the 2008 until 2009 crisis was very much like the trend of the 1998 crisis. At the same time, the depth of the fall during 2014 until 2015 was quite comparable with the 2008 crisis. Research methodology. While importing data from earlier studies by other authors, this study uses a quantitative methodology. These participants' responses are gathered by a survey or another quantitative research technique. By using statistics, it is possible to analyze data more quickly and easily and identify trends. Background. The volume of foreign trade operations of the Russian Federation continues to decline due to the economic sanctions imposed in 2014 and prolonged relatively recently. The sanctions have already affected and continue to negatively affect trade financing of the Russian Federation. Some of the foreign banks have reduced expositions on Russian banks and country expositions to the Russian Federation as a whole. The level of trust between Russian and Western counteragents have also lowered significantly. The overall economic conditions in the country have worsened. GDP growth rate is declining. The volumes of both exports and imports went down to at least the level of 2008. Findings: the volume of foreign trade operation in the Russian Federation grows year by year. Thus, in the first place, all efforts of both buyers and sellers should be aimed at minimization, ideally at complete elimination of the related risk in order to complete successfully foreign trade transactions, preventing potential losses at the same time. In Russia, there are factors that hinder the volume of transactions with documentary letters of credit from being used more frequently. More specifically, we can observe a certain inconsistency of Russian legislation with the international rules for operators with documentary letters of credit.
My article is International Trade Resilience and COVID-19 Pandemic. This paper tends to examine the influence of various country-level determinants in resilience to components, robustness to resist the initial impact, and responsiveness to support the recovery in the context of global trade during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a global survey of port authorities and operators looking into the effect of COVID-19, many ports have been impacted by shift in demand, capacity limitation, manpower shortage, and delays brought on by change to procedure. To create a general explanation of the phenomena of trade resilience under exceptional conditions, this research chose to employ an inductive approach. It is like a bottom-up approach to mid-range theorizing. In the facts serve as the foundation for the theory creation. This approach is said to be suitable for exploratory research because it heavily relies on induction to find patterns in the data. Data sample and measurements are next. A distinctive dataset was created by combining data at the country level from several sources. This paper tells about the crisis of COVID-19, which impact the socioeconomic and trade finance activities. The crisis had a terrible socioeconomic impact, and its effect will still be felt for years to come. The loss of life has undoubtedly been the pandemic's most tragic result, but its economic toll has been equally severe. Some writers claim that COVID-19 will completely stop globalization, while others claim that it will at least change its direction. It is clear that while globalization has significantly helped the world economy, it has also made some nations, companies, and individuals vulnerable to systemic supply chain flaws. As a result, the fact that GHS is present in all but two configurations is significant because during a crisis of this magnitude, sustaining the healthcare infrastructure is essential for preserving economic activity and international trade. Globalization, ECOG and SOCT, and logistic performance, LPI, are the two elements that when combined with other factors make commerce resilient. Additionally, the analysis for the negation of the outcome discovers several qualitatively distinct configurations related to the absence of trade performance for the sufficiency of the absence of the outcome.
Now we move to the Article 4, Challenge Facing the Bank in Financing International Trade from the Islamic Perspective. These articles study about the risk also is investigated particularly when dealing with the Islamic banking mode of financing. When an Islamic bank employs the Islamic financing principle, there's something inherent risks. This study is also organized as follows as it reviews the literature on the risk involved in international trade financing, analyzes the various types of risks faced by Islamic banks, and elaborates on risk management for Islamic banks. When the objective was analyzed, the issue in this article is about to understanding what is risk, and the perception of business organization towards risk is very important to Islamic banks. In addition, the uncertainty in many aspects of commercial transaction has become synonymous with risk. When Malaysia applies a dual banking system with the conventional and Islamic, they need know how to adapt the risk of the both sides. Malaysia nowadays accept international trade among the countries to ensure that the transaction goes smoothly without any fraud. However, the risk always existed in business, and it is even more prevalent when transacting across borders. The intensification of industrialization has resulted in a previously unknown risk. To compete in today's competitive business environment, business must not only be able to minimize their risk in doing business, but also be able to capitalize on the growth opportunities presented by doing business in others' country. As a result, it is necessary to conduct a risk management analysis in the Islamic financial system. A Sharia-compliant risk management is examined, and some risk management alternatives are proposed in Islamic banks to mitigate their risk in financing international trade. Firms that want to enter the international market, however, should be aware of the risks as well as the opportunities and the facilities available to facilitate their business transaction. Production activities are typically time-consuming. The longer the production period, the greater the uncertainty. To compete into this competitive business environment, business must be able to capitalize on the growth opportunity presented by doing business with customer and the supplier in other countries. However, paying for and receiving payment for goods and services from trading partners can be difficult when they cross borders. As a result, risks are unavoidable and they must prepare to deal with them in the future. Understanding what risk is and how business organization perceive risk is critical for Islamic banks. This is since Islamic banks receive funds from a variety of sources, including depositors and shareholders, which form on increasing the bank's assets and performance. The issues come out with how we manage the risk itself. There are various types of risks when it's come to trade financing. Liquidity risk, foreign exchange risk, market risk, indirect risk, credit risk, and Islamic financing related risks are all inherent risks in international trade financing. For the liquidity risk, Islamic banks provide long-term financing, while depositors provide funds that are a very short-term in terms of withdrawal period that are exposed to liquidity risk. It is the risk of to a bank's earning and a capital that result from its inability to meet obligation on time, such as meeting depositors' demand when they become due without incurring unacceptable losses. Next, the foreign exchange risk also referred to the loss caused by a fluctuation in the exchange rates. It refers to the potential losses that can occur when the exchange rate of a currency to be received fall in the value relative to the home currency, or when the exchange rate of foreign currency in which a payment is to be made appreciate relative to the home currency. Islamic banks are exposed to the foreign exchange risk when they finance international trade because they are working with many currencies. Whether a company is a Muslim or not, if it engages in international trade, it will suffer currency risk because doing so exposes its receivables and payable to fluctuation in currency exchange rate, which can significantly raise or decrease depending on the facts of the firm liabilities. In addition, the country and political risks also affect trade finance, which include the contract cancellation, civil unrest, license restriction for export and import, conflict, war, and other similar disturbances that influence the fulfillment of the contract in the buyer's country of residence. In a conclusion, securitization is the one of the strategy of Islamic banks to handle the risk management. A non-trade financial instrument becomes a trade security through a securitization.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Arif Hakimi and my metric number is 119096. Moving on to the Article 5, entitled Blockchain Technology and Trust Relationships in Trade Finance. For the first one, we look into the objective. The objective here is to improve the trust. We need to know what is the blockchain. Blockchain technology is a technology that provides a secure and transparent ledger for recording transactions, which can reduce the risk of fraud, reduce the human error, and at the same time, it can increase the trust between trading partners that involved. Next, it can enhance the efficiency, which the technology can automate certain processes and reduce the need for intermediaries, which is bank, make it more faster and more efficient transactions. Then, it can reduce the cost by streamlining the processes. Also, the objective here to increase the financial inclusions and fostering interoperability. Because blockchain technology can facilitate communications among trading partners and all parties involved. As we look into the issues, trading finance bridge the gap between importers and exporters, minimizing the credit risk for both parties. It has been hampered by trust issues rooted in the multifaceted nature of international trade. So the issue here, there are so multiple trading partners and intermediaries. Also, there are lack of standardizations among different platforms. Besides, there are lack of regulations for legal certainty. And then there is limited understanding and knowledge among the trading partners. So we look into the research methods used in this study. This is a qualitative research which use purposive sampling. And the sample here, they use the people or the respondent that with the knowledge that who has the knowledge and experience in the blockchain technology, also in the trade finance. Then we look into the background. First one, global commerce is predicted to increase 4% yearly and total of US dollar 24 trillion by 2026, which all banking operations that facilitate trade transactions are referred to trade finance. That shows how important trade financing are. Regarding the issues we discussed before, the blockchain technology is suggested as solutions to persistent problems with trust in trade finance. Before that, know that the nature of trade finance divided into two. The first one is bilateral contractual obligations, and second, providing instruments for the protection from fraud. There are three types of payment methods in international trade actually. The first one is cash in advance. Second is open accounts, and the third one is the common used payment method, which is letter of credit or LC. The disadvantages of LC is reliance on some forms of trust for trading partners to fulfilling the contract obligations. And the second is risk of fraud and uncertainty within the letter of credit. So as the suggested solutions, blockchain technology, which can provide a transparent ledger for recording transactions and exchanging data. Thus, the article likely to explore the current state of trade financing and its challenges. Also, it introduced blockchain technology as a solution, as we can find out in the findings of the article. Mainly, blockchain technology can enhance the trust relationships between trading partners and be the solutions to the issues. By the first one, improving the security of transactions and data exchanges. Second, promoting similarity among trading partners through blockchain consortia. Third, aligning the interests of trading partners. Fourth, facilitating the expressions of benevolence. Fifth, enhancing the efficiency and the quality of communications. And sixth, the last one, increasing the predictability of trading partners. That's all from me. Thank you.
For the conclusion, first, we can conclude that the crisis-related drop in international trade may be important for the forecasting future recoveries. Second, Russia increased the volume of foreign trade operation in the Russian Federation grow year by year. Third, a trade-friendly climate is essential to the countries. And the last one is the Islamic banks are exposed to the foreign exchange risk. That's all from us. Thank you.